My friend is pregnant. My husband is convinced it's either his or mine. Well, I tried to stay off social media, but I have no clue where to go since 3 people I would go to are the 3 people involved in this. Some background. Everyone's ages are their current ages. I, 42 male, have been involved with Gail, 42 male, since I was in my senior year of high school, and it became close. When he started dating his now wife, June, 43, I got even closer with her as we had way more in common. By the way, this comes from Throwaway Dumb Decision, and if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So June was diagnosed with PCOS at 16 and was told she'd have a very low probability of having kids. Unfortunately, Gail also had fertility issues, so the chances of having children are near impossible. They've tried IVF 4 times, and every time they lost a baby sometime in the first trimester. When I first started dating my husband, 48 male, I found out he worked in social work, and I got to ask about the adoption process, and he was very open about it. This is all info I passed on to Gail and June, but they still were trying to make IVF work, so they weren't interested at the time. My husband became fast friends with them, and after a few years, Gail and June decided on their own to adopt. So we helped them. They adopted 2 boys from a rough background. They love these boys, but they always wanted to raise a baby together. My husband and I also have 3 kids around the same age that we adopted, but that's not important to the story at hand. Now that that's out of the way, here's even more context for the problem at hand. All of our kids are now in high school, and my husband and I's oldest is in college. We all found out we had a lot more free time on our hands, so we started hanging out more. We do game nights, movie nights, weekends away, etc. One night when the kids were gone, we all hung out, being dumb, wasted, or high on some stupid mixture of both, and flat out stupid. We had the grand idea to all hook up. All of us were pretty open, spicy sleep-wise, so it was whatever. We had fun, so we all agreed we could very occasionally continue doing this with the permission of everyone's partners. We never did one-on-one with each other's partners, so I wouldn't call it polyamory. We didn't even do threesomes or foursomes, I guess. It was always one weekend every month or 2 where the 4 of us went on vacation together and kind of just all hooked up. I don't know what we were thinking, but we must stress we did use protection. For the past few weeks, June's been pretty sick, yet it didn't seem to affect her emotionally at all. No matter how sick she got, she still wore a genuine grin, even if only slightly. Gail was also pretty happy as well. I thought it was weird, but my husband wasn't too fazed, so I let it go. That was until 2 days ago. June and Gail called us to a celebratory dinner, but said what we were celebrating was a surprise. Before we ate, Gail poured out the drinks, and I noticed that June wasn't drinking. I guess June noticed my staring, and she started crying and laughing, happy nodding, and confirmed that yes, she was pregnant. She was a few weeks along, but they wouldn't announce it until she made it to the 2nd trimester. I was ecstatic and quickly ran over to hug Gail and her, gently of course. When I looked at my husband, instead of a happy face, he looked suspicious. The best face I can reference is that woman doing a math meme or the Futurama squint. He just looked accusing, not the normal reaction to friends being pregnant, especially given the circumstances. He then asked, "How far along are you again?" Very rudely, which is shocking because he never takes a tone with people. Gail and June started stuttering, June saying that she didn't know, while Gail was saying that it didn't really matter. My husband pushed the issue. They both then started getting very defensive, suddenly saying it wasn't his business. He said it was his business, as 9 weeks ago aligned with something we all did together, aka the hookup. They angrily punted us out the second we got into the car. We started fighting, and I mean really having a go. He was fuming at me for not taking his side and asking, "Do you really not see the problem here?" Honestly, I don't see a problem though. I don't think that June or Gail would hide this from either of us if one of us could have been the dad. He said that they should have just confirmed that then. He believes the fact that they skirted around the topic and got angry was cause for concern, which if by some chance one of us was the dad, it more likely than not would have been me, as my husband is more preferential to me and Gail than June. He still does hook up with her during our vacation, so it's possible he might be the father, but not likely. I also don't see an issue if I was a father, because Gail and I discussed with me being a baby juice donor in the past, as I look quite a bit like June. When I explained that to my husband, he blew up, saying he wasn't comfortable with the thought of me fathering someone else's kid, which I found ridiculous. That would be my decision, not his, and I would be supporting our friends. He then asked what 4 of us do if he was the father. I think it's more important to mention now that my husband is Middle Eastern, darker skin, extremely curly dark hair, dark eyes, and very Middle Eastern facial features. Meanwhile, June and Gail are white, June being blonde and Gail having light brown straight hair with very Eurocentric features. So it would be very obvious if he was the father, especially given he's the only person in their immediate group with those features. It doesn't help that June's family, specifically her mom's side of the family, is discriminatory. So any mixed baby she would have would face a crap storm in her family. He pointed out that if we didn't get the paternity clear now and he was the father, it would look like he and June had an affair and we'd have to explain our hookups to all three families, June's, Gail's, and mine. That would be mortifying for obvious reasons. I told him he was being ridiculous and selfish and that this was June and Gail's baby first, and he was villainizing them when they had yet to be proven guilty. That pissed him off. We had a screaming match the whole drive home. That continued when we got home. It didn't help that June and Gail fanned the flames by texting us that they didn't want to see either of us for a little while about how we ruined a good moment. While I don't blame them for being emotional, I just wish that they had just let it sit for the night. But it also falls on me because I was the one to use it against him in the argument. It all derailed into a fight about when and why I had agreed I would be a baby juice donor if they needed one without talking to him, which got me sentenced to the spare bed in my office for the past 2 nights and tonight as well, by the looks of it. He did not talk to me yesterday. In fact, we avoided each other and he didn't put a note in my lunch like usual. I did try to make up with him at bedtime, but he was not interested in discussing anything with me quite yet, and he said he still needed time to get his thoughts in order. Today he was petty enough to leave a note in my lunch, but it was only a reminder that he was still mad at me and that his packing my lunch didn't mean I was forgiven. He did not say that exactly. It was a heart-shaped note that said F you with a little angry face. We were distant and cold enough that our youngest felt the need to bring me my dinner tonight when I wouldn't come down and asked why we were fighting. I just soothed him by saying it was over dumb grown-up stuff. I can't stop thinking about it now, and though I trust Gail and June, they are acting extremely weird. I also know that a large part of this falls on me, as I didn't ever consider that my husband might care if I was a baby juice donor for them, even if theoretically. That seems to have hurt him the most in this bizarre make-believe situation, but I don't understand why. I wouldn't care if he was their baby juice donor. Admittedly, I agree with him that if he or I was the father, I certainly would like to know sooner rather than later, especially if my husband is, because I need to prepare for the crap storm if he is. Because he is right, I'm sure a lot of our family will question why they chose him over me, but I just feel there was a time and a place to ask that question, and I know June and Gail wouldn't hide that from us. It has to be Gail's, and this was a huge overreaction on his part. I don't even know what to ask for exactly. How to make up with my husband first and foremost about the baby juice donor thing. I know I messed up there, but does anyone have advice on how to handle the paternity situation as well? I'm sure they're innocent, but I don't know how to prove their innocence when they want space, and I don't want to wait 9 months for a paternity test because I don't want to keep having this argument over and over. Thanks ahead of time for any advice provided. We have a small edit update. We have more to the story. I don't know which is the proper term. My husband is still upset, and so am I. The day was bad. Anytime we spoke, it led to a mini argument, admittedly instigated on both sides. We were annoyed with each other. He says, I still think he's acting very self-centered when this should be a time of celebration for June and Gail. Something I don't even get to do with them because he made them uncomfortable. He's basically locked himself to the bedroom, and I'm writing this as I watch a movie with the kids. He's acting so oddly, and I don't know why, but I'm going to just give him space. So thank you for your patience. This has been a doozy of a week. Sounds like it. So I read all the replies and I responded to a lot too. I appreciated all the different perspectives. My husband and I did get to make up as best we could for right now, but our marriage was in a way worse spot than I even knew. I know I was pretty wishy-washy in the comments, but once we communicated, I understood. Reading myself back with his point of view in mind, I can see everything so much clearer. Apparently, he never wanted to be in an open relationship in the first place. In fact, he didn't even like me kissing someone else. When I asked why he agreed to keep hooking up if he regretted the first one, he explained that he would do anything for me and that he'd do a heck of a lot for Gail and June too. So when all three of us wanted to continue hooking up, he didn't want to be the only one to say no and make everyone upset. So instead, he set boundaries that he thought would be enough, but weren't. He thought that he'd just get used to it and he never grew okay with it. I think he also never came forward with the second or third or so hookup because the three of us were very open about how much we enjoyed it, and he always just smiled and nodded or shrugged until the subject. He didn't like how we all interacted with each other during or progressively after those hookups. Admittedly, I see how lines were getting blurred. While we never went one-on-one dates, we did jokingly flirt with each other, vocally and physically, something we did before, but now he said it felt like it had undertones after everything. He didn't like when Gail and June would flirt with him, and he especially didn't like when they flirted with me. That's when also admitted he felt like he was competing for my attention and affection, which I didn't get why. I always thought I was pretty affectionate to him, but I guess I wasn't reassuring him enough. It's also possible that another new insecurity caused by the hookups, but it still feels awful to know my husband could ever think that I could love someone as much as him. Instead of talking about it with us, he just let it all stew, and he started to resent Gail and June. Then he just blew up, his words, not mine, and he admitted that wasn't fair and apologized. When I asked why the final straw was the pregnancy specifically, he admitted it was probably some culmination of his fears of this happening anyways and the repercussions it would have on our friendship as a whole. And when Gail and June got dodgy about the exact date of how far along she was in her pregnancy, he assumed that they had manipulated this into happening. It really didn't help that it looked that way too. At some points, I was even considering that. He was also just extremely uncomfortable with the thought of me fathering someone else's child. He then asked why I agreed to be a baby juice donor without telling him. I explained I didn't think about it when I first offered, and since Gail turned me down, I didn't think it was important. He informed me that he would never have even suggested that without talking to me first, and for me to not do the same felt like I didn't care about his feelings or his opinion in major decisions. This has been an issue in the past with me making big decisions / offering things without talking about it first, so I understand why he feels like this. I apologized and suggested we go to therapy individually and together. He accepted that easily, and we've gone in the past during our roughest patches, so it's not a taboo topic for either of us. It's just been a long while since we've gone. Now for the bigger post, and probably why you're all here. Who is the father? After our talk, I helped my husband curate a text to June and Gail where he apologized for ruining their celebration dinner. He explained it in much less detail, what he told me about his insecurities over the change in our relationship, and he was sorry for letting his worries and pessimism get the better of him. They were pretty understanding and apologized that he felt uncomfortable with the arrangement. We all agreed to end it right there, which I can't convince my husband to not feel guilty over, but we're working on it. As for the paternity, and while the dates absolutely do line up, we all agreed it shouldn't matter right now, and we'd figure out whatever happens. We all knew this risk of sleeping together, and what mattered was June and Gail finally were having a baby. I think that soothed any remaining fears in Jewel and Gail because they admitted they refused to get specific about dates because they thought my husband was going to fight for custody. They asked to do a paternity test once she was deeper in the second trimester, maybe even the third. So things are extremely awkward, and honestly, I don't think they'll get any better for a while. My husband is still very uncomfortable around June and Gail, no matter how many times we all try to reassure him that no one's upset with him for ending the hookups and that no one's upset about his reaction. He's just distanced himself for now. I don't know what else to do with the situation, but I think we just need to spend time away from them and maybe even a little more space from me as well, just to build himself up a bit more beyond our relationship. I also know that Gail, June, and I feel bad. We never noticed how uncomfortable my husband was. Shy for sure. He always said that he was fine, and being that shyness to spicy related situations matches his personality, it made sense, but we should have just stopped. I just wish he had told us, but I can see why he didn't lie. It was just a crappy situation. I don't wish we didn't all sleep together because it's entirely possible that's what led to June finally getting pregnant, but I wish things didn't end like this, with everyone just feeling sad and guilty. I know there's no quick fix here, but I want to go back to normal. I have to ask for more advice, but if there are any more ideas you all might have on how to make this less awkward,
it's not going to be that awkward. This is a weird situation.